Dana, just wrapping up Texas, maybe start with defensively. The things that you did, the changes that you made, can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on is that something that going forward, or was that sort of what you saw from Texas and that fit what you wanted to do just for that specific week?
Well, yeah, we had some discussions, internally on kind of what would be best. I mean, I give our coaches credit, just going back and looking at some of the problems that, some of the teams that played Texas pretty tight, pretty tough, and gave them some problems. I think the element of change was good. Our players embraced it. It was one of the first things Sark said to me after the game, like, really, you went to a 3-3-5 defense? Which that's what we ran at West Virginia, and Doug was a part of that staff. So it wasn't foreign to them. There's a reason why a lot of teams have went to it, in this league, just really good offenses. I mean, Kansas State's, they went to it. Oklahoma State went to it. West Virginia's done it forever. Four down fronts, like what Texas runs is, kind of what we've been doing. And they're good at it because they have a front that is just exceptional. Alabama does it, Georgia does it. These guys are exceptional. Okay, we've been good at it here, and it worked in the American, and won us 12 games. And just going against Texas, I didn't think it was going to be the answer. I mean, they're too good. And so if they know where we were and how we played against West Virginia, I mean, we were going to give up a lot of big plays if we did that. And the one thing that we did defensively is we didn't give up big plays. We gave up one fade route. Other than that, we made them kind of earn it, and we slowed them down. It was successful, and I was proud of our players and our coaches on how they embraced this, and how we tackled. We tackled good. We rallied to the ball, and we got the ball on the ground. We forced them to punt. We held them on a couple of fourth downs. So it was I think it's something that we can build on. I'm not going to give away secrets on what we're going to continue to do moving forward, but I do think it's something that we can build on.
So now that you have it on film, not in a game situation, do you don't do much of that in practice before in terms of 3-3-5? Or?
We did a lot this summer. I forced them to. You can't really run team periods in summer, but you can do some Pascal stuff and a lot of the stuff that we dealt with this summer was a lot of drop 8 stuff, just because us offensively, we're going to see that so much throughout the course of the year. We're going to see it the rest of the year. I mean, it's going to start, this week with Kansas State. I mean, they're a 3 down front, and they're going to drop 8 a lot. So I wanted them to experiment with it, to give us looks, in the summer and in camp, because we're going to have to see it a lot, and it was good for us offensively to be able to see that a lot. And so we had a base knowledge, and we've experimented with some things in the past. I mean, we came out against East Carolina last year in the same thing, we caught them off guard, and we held them to 3 points in that game. So once again, I give our defensive coaches credit. Been critical of some of the defensive play, and Coach Belk did a good job of getting those guys rallied, and we played well defensively for who our opponent was.
You said after the game that Caldwell had a full-bodied cramp. Did you get any more info on that?
He played his ever-living tail off.
Yeah.
This dude weighs 350 pounds or whatever it is, and so he's recovering. So, I have no reason to believe that he won't be a full participator here today, So, there's just a lot going on with his body. I mean, he's got a lot of mass, and he plays extremely hard and is extremely disruptive. When he went out of the game, I think they, said, well, let's just run it right at him now for the rest of the game, because that's what they did, and they went right down the field and scored. I had my mind made up at that point right there that we were gonna drive down and score and go for 2, because and that's what I would have done. I think we got the first down. I disagree with what they say. Everybody thinks we got the first down. Should have been first and 8.5 on the 8.5. I think we would have scored. I think we would have ran horns down and went for 2 and won the game 32-31. That's what I think.
Did you have any contact with the Big 12 about those calls on second and third down the spots?
Yeah, I've had a lot of calls, a lot of talks. You know, at the end of the day, the human element gets kicked in, and they make decisions on spots. I thought we got the first down on second down when we threw the ball to Michael Laughlin in the flat. He fell forward and landed on the 8.5-yard line, 8.5 to 9-yard line. They spotted it on the 10, you know, and then I think Stacy, his feet were all over the 9-yard line moving forward. So they disagree. They said that they've confirmed it. You know, you asked the question if it's reviewable. They were reviewing it the whole time for what they said, you know, because they measured it and they had an injury, so there was time. And so they said they were reviewing it the whole time and confirmed it. So I disagree. I'm entitled to my opinion. I think most people would agree with me.
Coach, back here, looking ahead a little bit to Kansas State, what do you see as you start into the early preparations for them coming off of TCU win?
Not exactly what I want to see. Welcome to the Big 12. You know, we host the University of Texas. We have a unbelievable atmosphere, great football game. Kids were really disappointed. I mean, we had a chance there at the end. You know, proud of our players for how they prepared, how they practiced, the product that they put out there on the field, and we got to build on that. You know, I mean, then turn around the next week, you got to go to the defending Big 12 champs, Kansas State, up in Manhattan. They're playing as good as anybody in the country right now. I mean, they struggled at Oklahoma State. I think it was game 4. Oklahoma State, that's kind of a must-win for them right there. You studied that game, you know, and Oklahoma State sold out and won. Their quarterback got hurt in that game. The quarterback was struggling a little bit in that game, and then they stumble upon a freshman that's one of the top recruits in the country. You know, that's a Kansas kid, Kansas State guy, and and they put him in, and this dude just does nothing but score touchdowns. They go to Texas Tech, and he scores 5 touchdowns. Will Howard is a preseason Heisman Trophy candidate, you know, and they stumbled on this kid because of an injury and he didn't have a great game against Oklahoma State. They go to Lubbock and they win by 2 touchdowns, and then they host TCU and beat them by 35 or 38. So they're playing as good as anybody in the country, and they're the defending Big 12 champs. It's a hard place to go play. I've been there multiple times. You think Texas was a challenge because of how talented they are and well coached. This team is extremely, extremely, extremely good, extremely sound, well coached, best coached team in the country. Their players don't mess up, and they score. So, welcome to the Big 12. This is what we signed up for. So let's go. You know, we need to build on our performance last week, which I think we will, and we need to prepare hard this week like we did last week, because it's going to take the same thing that we did last week in order to be in a competitive game here this week.
So with Johnson, does that just offer another wrinkle in terms of how you prepare and how they're going to use him, and considering that they have Howard?
Yeah, they really don't do different things with them. I mean, they're both great players, right? So they're running Johnson a little bit more, but they run Howard too. So we're going to have to prepare for quarterback run game. They started the game last week with both of them in the game, and then they just rotated. It's the same Kansas State team. I mean, they're going to run the ball. They pose problems in the running game that, quite frankly, I haven't seen anybody do it better. I mean, outside the academies and what they possess from a run game perspective, these guys, quarterback run game, but their running backs are solid. It's the best O-line that we faced. One of the top O-lines in the country, one of the top run games in the country. And then they can throw the thing a little bit too. So it's a huge challenge.
After 2 emotional games, how do you get your team up for a 3rd week in a row?
It's you talk about Big 12 is what you do. I mean, it's you think the next one's not going to be just as hard going to Waco, or the next one just as hard playing Cincinnati. I mean, we got 5 in a row here that are all going to be hard. It's Big 12. It's what we signed up for. It's what our players came here for, you know. So we recruited to the Big 12 to be in these games. Players want to come here because they know that they're going to be in these games. I think last week was a glimpse of what we're going to see moving forward. Obviously, it's the University of Texas, and they brought a lot of people here. But that's what we're striving for. That's what we're building towards. You go to Manhattan, and there's going to be 60,000 people there, and it's going to be sold out, and it's going to be an exciting atmosphere. It's why we want. It's why we want to be in this conference, to get used to this every week, and it's just reality of what we're going to face.
Dana, with, with Nelson and David, have you started to maybe see a little bit of what you envision there, being able to, get some pressure and, make some impact plays?
Yeah, and we we did different things with those guys too. That's more along the lines of what David did at OU. He had a great game, man. Boy, he thumped that quarterback on that third down. He stopped. He made another big stop in the I believe it was the first quarter on our sideline. He can run and hit. See, that's a little. It's a little bit more natural for him to do that than it is C's, because C's had his hand down for so long. But we have done different things with him, where he's been a second level roamer, and I think next level stuff for both those guys, it's going to be more 3-4 outside backer type stuff, right? So this is good for them in their development and being able to put some things on video that I think the scouts are going to really like.
A couple of weeks ago, you after Texas Tech, you mentioned about the journey of Dalton Carnes. Just to see in those moments for him to make those type of plays, that was a tough room going into the year to get some balls thrown your way. What got you sort of looking at him that he could be an option like that?
Just consistency. Just kid shows up and does the same thing every day. Works hard, practices hard. I'm glad we talked him out of not transferring, because he was probably going to transfer if he didn't get a shot to play, just because he wants to play, and he hung in there, and he knew he had a shot because he was repping in the 2 deep and getting a lot of practice time in camp and just waiting his turn, and then just, I think the way that we do offense, it's a little bit different than what it was like the last couple of years with Toon, just kind of having that security blanket of Tank and kind of always going there just based on, and we game planned a lot to be able to get him in matchups, to be able to get him the ball as much as he can. This is more progression based, okay? And Donovan's really good and comfortable from a progression based passing game. I don't see him like saying, okay, I know my guy's there, I'm not going to throw it to him. We'll probably throw it to him. I'm going to throw it to him. I mean, he just goes through progressions, and it doesn't matter who the people are. He's comfortable with everybody. He's comfortable with Sam. He's comfortable with Matt. He's comfortable with Manjack. He's comfortable with Carnes. Those are our starting four, and progression-based, whatever the defense does, he goes through his reads, and he throws it to the guy that's open. And it doesn't matter if it's Dalton Carnes or if it's Matt Golden. He's going to throw it at him. So Dalton took advantage of his opportunities. He's worked his way into a starting receiver in our 10 personnel, and Manjack's back up in 11 personnel, and when he's in there, we don't choose our play calls based on him being in there or not being in there.
Speaking of Matthew, I know earlier in the year when we talked about maybe he was pressing or maybe overthinking, it looks like the last several games that light maybe turned on, or just what you expect, that talent has really shown up just in big plays.
Yeah. He was pressing early and just needed to settle in, and has settled in and is doing really well. I'm proud of his progress and where he's at, and his determination and work ethic. I actually told him a fair catch that kickoff. Didn't feel good about kickoff return. I ain't gonna lie to you. I mean, those guys can fly down the field, and that first one, they flew down the field, and we had a hard time staying on blocks, and they pinned us inside the 15-yard line. And so I told Matt, I was like, if it's hanging up there, fair catch it. And it was a shorter kick, so he felt good about it. And you know, he creased that thing. He hit it. Now they were coming. We didn't block anybody on this side. We actually did a good job on the play side of that, and they were coming because we didn't block anybody on the backside. But he got through there quick and got it onto the kicker, and the kicker grabbed his face, or he's going to score again. So I was glad he did that. But just he's got confidence. You know, he's an outstanding returner. But in the passing game, he's a kid that we rely on to be able to get some touchdowns. I'm glad he caught that one, and I don't know how they overturned the man jack thing too. That's another thing, that replay. I mean, I just don't understand that. I mean, you fell down on the goal line. I don't understand how that's a touchdown. And then we ran it at him, and we lose 3 yards because they're so good up front. And so, you know, we had to throw the thing, and we threw it to Matt, and he got his second touchdown of the game. That should have been Manjack's touchdown.
Running game, Dana. Obviously, this last week was sort of self-explanatory, but just looking at maybe Tony and Brandon, is Brandon still being bothered by, you know, what he was dealing with health-wise, or?
No, he's fine. He'll be available for us when we need him.
And then Tony?
So, yeah, Tony played, I think, 14 snaps, 15 snaps. Did really good job in our pass protection. These guys are just hard to run against, you know. I mean, they just are. And I thought our O-line did a phenomenal job of pass protecting. I mean, as many times as we threw it, you know, they got to us. They got to us once or twice. They got to us twice, especially early on when they had their ears pinned and they were coming. But, you know, running game is important to us. You know, Parker had a couple of really nice runs. Stacy had a couple of really nice runs. It just wasn't going to be something that we knew we could just rely on in that game. Our pass protection was great, but just the run game was going to be tough. But happy with where Parker is, happy with where Stacy is. You know, Tony comes in and gives, you know, maturity and did a great job in the passing game. He's capable of getting us yards in the run game as well, and eventually we're probably going to get to Brandon as well. All good? All right, thank you guys.